Pizza Thursdays live. I seen comments on that. Another, what do we have here? Someone said Pizza Thursday. Sure, why not? Who knows what this is? Can you get it? Will it focus? Come on, there we go. Who knows what's in my hand? There's the first question we're going to ask and start with here. It's red. It's shiny. It's pretty cool, but it's, yes. Let's see here. Who's going to be the first to guess what this is? Oh, I got to close down. I have too many things. If I showed you what's in the background, it would be amusing, but not appropriate for Vlog Thursday. It's some of our internal banter that goes on in our office. So sometimes things are, ooh, I see someone knows who it is. Yep. There's people right away that guessed what it is. This is actually, what's interesting too, this is the SG-1000. This is a really old device, by the way. Let me get it. There we go. So we can get it in focus. Come on. How close can we get it? I wonder before. Now it's in the shadow. And you can probably see that. I can't really crop it in any further because it gets into the shadow, but it's a SG-1000. So that is correct. Yeah. That's how I know you are been around for a minute. Looking at this PFSense stuff. I thought about firing this thing back up. I thought it was pretty cool. I try to remember how long ago it was released. I mean, probably a date on here somewhere. Yeah, I could be wrong. Either way, pretty cool that it exists. This is one of the first Netgate getting into some of the ARM devices, which I think is pretty, it's still novel. It's an early attempt. It's not the most successful one. It was actually in use. This was actually at a client's for a while. Obviously, it's been a minute, but yeah, it's still kind of cool. I'm trying to figure out what to do with some of my background. And so I have some of these unusual devices. I wish I had one. A client wanted to keep it, which I thought, I said, we offered to recycle it, but the client said, oh, I'll just keep it. I'm like, okay. We put a new firewall in and they had one of the really old, I can't remember the model number, really old Netgate boxes from forever ago. And, but they wanted to keep it. And I'm like, I don't care if you keep it. But I wish I had one of those. I don't have, and I'm not going to buy one just to, is it still supported? That's what I'm curious about. I mean, it's way past end of life. This thing's quite old. But I'm curious if it will run the latest PFSense. That's the part. Yeah. So that's the part I'm curious about, is whether or not it'll even still work. So that's just a curiosity I have. It also goes back to what I said. I want to put a few different things. I might put some shelves up behind me. I haven't really decided. I've thought about just redoing some of the studio and rearranging it and moving the studio, what would, for my position, be that way. And if I move it that way, it would give more room behind me to do things. But then I would have to go further back and forth to get to my monitor. I don't know. It's a lot of, I overthink it. And then I said, I'm not getting anything done, and I just get back to work. That's so, well, let's see. Indoor conditions for a NAS unit, 12 bays and above. Looking for something more than 3-year warranty. Do you want a Synology? I guess you have to add a little more context to questions like that. It's like when you say, I want a computer, I want a server. It takes a lot more context to be able to give ideas for what you're doing. What's the software it's going to run? I'm assuming you don't want all NVMe, do you? That would change the type of chassis, but maybe you're just talking normal spinning SATA. Whenever you're asking for servers, you got to get the details in there. Also, harder to get the details in the comments in a live stream. Highly recommend using forums for things like that. And specifically, not just my forums, but if you're going to, because this has come up many times, hey, I'm looking for an NAS to run TrueNAS on. There's an entire section of the TrueNAS forums dedicated to people talking about the hardware. So hopefully that helps. Hello from New York City. Tom, you've been cranking out videos lately, and they've been great. Thank you very much. The cranking out of videos is a lot of work for sure, but it's something I really like doing. I was planning on doing a video today. That did not occur. I spent this morning, first thing, hard down server. So as soon as the client opened, we had to go figure out why was it down and what were we going to do about it. And we're not even sure. Windows decided to lose the partition, and we don't know why, just for the boot. We restored it and it works, but it's still slow, but it's working. So we're going to sort out why it's slow later, but it's a puzzle because we don't have an answer yet. We just know that it did it. We don't know why it did it. Welcome to dealing with Windows problems. And sometimes the answer is because it's Thursday. And why was Tom there? Because he's got employees on vacation. So Tom had to go himself, in case anyone cares. Oh, let's see. Hey, from Germany, Dublin, all over the place. CrowdSec on DSM 7. I guess if you have public ports exposed on DSM, it makes sense to put it on there. That's I noticed some people didn't understand CrowdSec, and I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to handle that. The problem with people who don't understand CrowdSec came down to people thinking it blocked websites. And I'm like, no, you misconstrued it. And some people going on a rant of how it was for censorship. I'm like, what? No, wait, what are you talking about? It's not a censorship thing. It doesn't do website blocking. I never said that in the video. I almost wanted to rewatch the video. Like, where did this person come up with these crazy ideas? And that is occasionally when I do delete comments off YouTube when they're so not related to the video. I mean, obviously I filter the spam comments out if there's any, but the ones where people are just so off topic and misconstruing what the product does in a way that I don't understand, sometimes I had to remove some of those comments too. I'm just like, what? It's not a website filter. So I don't know. I'd make a joke about what a vacation, but I just really forced myself to take on. Yeah. Tom, how can one span VLANs over a connection like zero tier? You don't. That isn't how that works. That's the wrong way to approach that problem. You don't span VLANs over zero tier. Zero tier is a mesh network. It's designed to be local to each device you load it on, not span across different networks, unless that particular device is multi-homed and has multiple networks. Then it would span it, and then you wouldn't be asking the question because it's a different approach at that point. But zero tier is meant to be loaded on devices, not spanning or routing. I mean, it has some routing features, but that's like an add-on and not what it's essentially made for. So you block websites. I'm seeing issues backed by Cloudflare being overly aggressive. Yes, that's the nature of things. You're going to have that. The more DDoS attacks that are out there, the more Cloudflare is going to do that. What's the main difference between pfSense and Ubiquity? They're two completely. Ubiquity offers lots of things, including firewalls, and pfSense makes firewalls. Does it make sense to install CrowdSec on devices with no exposed ports? No, not that I can think of at all. Is it possible for a network device with a port open to be compromised and then hop to the device without open ports? Lateral movement is one of the things you want to think about is how could something move laterally to it? This is another thing where there's comments where people misunderstood when I said, putting firewall rules and locking down your NAS. They're like, well, my NAS isn't publicly exposed. I said, you're not protecting it from public exposure. You're protecting from lateral movement. Lateral movement is when they get inside your network and see what adjacent devices they can get to. The more you lock down those devices from even talking to each other in any more limited fashion than they need to, that's just better security. So, but CrowdSec's not going to identify, by the way, if something comes in externally and laterally moves, the source IP is not the external IP, it's the local IP. So CrowdSec would have zero effectiveness on that. Routing is much cleaner. Yes. Zero tier to bridge sites together. Yeah. Zero tier is an alternative VPN to whole LAN. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do that. PF sets makes the best sense. There we go. Didn't Arrowhive get bought by someone else? Or didn't they buy someone or did someone buy them? I can't keep up with it. I've only ever used, we have one client that really liked their devices. We had such in my limited experience, them was less than great is what I'll say. I was less than thrilled with them, and they shipped us a bad product. Their website is confusing to set up compared to even UniFi. Things were just kind of buried and convoluted. I mean, I got it figured out and I got it set up for them, but I was less than thrilled with the hoops I had to jump through to get to some simple settings inside the device. But shipping us the bad device and was annoying, and then not shipping the brackets with it to mount it, which was weird. They said, well, we don't unless you ask. So we went to do an install because the client had the hardware and we were doing the install and they didn't have the brackets. And we asked for them, they're like, well, I assumed Arrowhive would ship them. Contact Arrowhive, which became these multiple step processes of getting a hold of someone to ship us brackets that they didn't ship. There was some confusion. The product worked once we got it installed. Well, once we got a good one, because the first one they shipped to us was bad. That was another thing that happened. I suppose you could do MPLS, GRE, or even EPN over zero-tier bridging. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with it. But if you're needing those advanced things, is zero-tier the right product for you? That's the thing. Is it the right tool for the job? If you're trying to extend the functionality beyond what its core purpose is it the right tool at that point? That's the pretty solid question I have for a lot of people. The other thing that I got to reach back out, and we're just trying to find a time to do this. But like my friends at 45 Drives, we've had a couple discussions on this, and I even joked a little bit with, I can't remember if it made it in the video or not, but me and David Bobble, when I did that PSS video, we joked about I recognize the amateurs right away, that comment on YouTube, because they always suggest the most complicated way to do things. And I'm like, clearly you've never had to support a wide variety of infrastructure and everything else, because you would not be choosing the most complicated way to deploy things. You always make the deployment, the server setup, whatever you're doing for the client, only as complicated as needed and no more. That's it. You meet their needs, you meet a level of complexity, because the more complexity, the harder it is to deploy, secure, and support. So if those complexities are not needed, then you don't do them. And that's something hard to get through people's heads. I think they learn a new tool or learn a new, piece of software that sits on top of something else, and they're going, why aren't you using this? And I'm like, that is not needed. Someone asked why we don't deploy small business servers with Terraform when we're dealing with Windows. I'm like, why would I do that? It's not that hard to load Windows and set it up. And I don't think Terraform is the best way to deploy Windows Active Directory servers. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm the one who's not right, but I don't think so. Try doing HA with UniFi here. You can see the difference between UniFi and PFSense. Yeah, they don't really have good HA stuff going there. Super interested in the Canary, specifically using Windows 10 to host a QB server. Any thoughts on how to implement the Canaries in a QB file? There are some files you can do for Canaries. Maybe they'll get tripped and someone will look for those files if you made them look good enough, and they would actually grab them and try to open them. Doing files on Windows is a lot harder to get people to trigger on. Now, that's as in using something like the Thinks Canary files on there without an agent. If you're doing something like Huntress, which we deploy, which also has Canary files, that's different because an agent is watching those Canary files. So there's different aspects of it. So the Canary, I talked about Canaries with Haroon Mir on my channel. There's a whole video on it, but those are not actively monitored with an agent. Those beacon out to the Canary site where you build the tokens. So it really kind of depends on whether or not you have an actively monitored with an agent Canary file, whether or not you'll get a trigger on it if someone opens it. Let's see. And the more complexity, the higher probability that someone else will make a mistake and break stuff. Yes, absolutely. And put it behind a VPN. If you're hosting any QuickBooks stuff, put it behind a VPN. Please do not even expose RDS. Least privilege and least complexity. Yeah, home lab people want to make it as complex as possible. And I think that's great from a learning perspective. Please learn, make this complicated thing, because you may have to support a complicated thing that someone else built because they thought it was the right thing. You may even have to disassemble it. It's the people who build their own firewall rules by hand and build a firewall by hand because they don't believe in web interfaces. We picked up a consulting, kind of consulting gig where we told them we have to replace it. It's not manageable. The person wrote their own firewall, built it out of Debian. So, like they didn't compile the whole thing from scratch necessarily, but they're very vague on how they did it. They have a bunch of custom routing rules and a bunch of custom settings, all command line, USSH in, and change everything in a firewall. And they're like, well, this is better than anything with a web interface. It's more secure, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is it? No one else seems to have the logins to it. You didn't document very well, because I actually got to talk to the outgoing IT person that was taking care of it. They didn't document it very well. So is it really a better solution? I don't know what the person did. They're vague documentation. They also are the outgoing IT person because they were getting canned because they are so slow to make any changes that the client requested or even respond. Sometimes 3 days for a response is pretty normal. And they said, we have a business to run. We can't take this. And they're like, can you support this firewall? And we're like, well, what is it? And the person had loaded all kinds of stuff on there. I mean, we can bypass some of that security, but it's convoluted of where everything was. If you have to expose RDP or VNC without a VPN, I recommend using Apache Guacamole through HTTPS reverse proxy. Yeah, I mean, that's probably more secure than straight up exposing it, but just put a VPN on there, because just in case they find a flaw in Guacamole, just don't expose things. I seen the title. I didn't listen to it yet, but I seen the title on Security Now talking about port knocking. I think it's going to become a more popular thing, even at some point for VPNs, to do that. It's a clever way. It's been around for years and years and years. I forget how long ago I configured it with some friends. We were poking away at something, and we were playing with ideas. It's not as practical yet to implement, but I think it'll get there. I think it'll be one of those next maturity levels we see, is some type of port knocking going on to open up ports and close ports. It's not that it's impossible to do right now. It's just not. There's some Linux implementations of it. There's structure around it, but it's it's one of those one more way to help obscure the open ports to try to slow people down. Yeah, I mean, it was forever ago, because you did it sometimes back then, because so in the early days, the transport layers weren't really encrypted for a couple of reasons. It was more work to encrypt the transport layer of something. And two, the other bigger reason was in the early days, we were trying to optimize for speed, and adding encryption in the early days had a cost of CPU cycles to it. So people wouldn't always encrypt everything. The early days of the internet were a wild time, man. We used to just sniff everything, and you could just grab passwords out of thin air, flying by everywhere all the time, because hubs instead of switches and things like that. The early days were wild. Hello from Cyprus. Why do they use on-prem servers? Because they're more practical than using a lot of things in the cloud. Bottom line, the on-prem server we had today, it runs some tools that they have a lot of files. Files is number one reason. They're a CAD place. The CAD backend has some type of SQL server and QuickBooks. They use on-prem QuickBooks because the online QuickBooks doesn't have the features they need. So they have the enterprise QuickBooks, and all that runs on the file server. And all the users are tied in with Active Directory to that server on-prem for authentication. So that's why. The cloud is not where everyone's at, and not where everyone's going to be tomorrow, in case anyone's wondering, despite what you may have heard. Do you have a recommendation for security cameras? I really like the Synology stuff. Synology Namcrest. I did a recent video on the cameras. Look at my channel. I did it within the last couple weeks. So that's probably I mean, there's always some DIY project, but there's such a headache. I haven't seen any DIY camera projects that weren't labor intensive, to say the least. So it comes down to what your time's worth. If you have all the time to sit down and find and set up and configure one of these, awesome. You can save a few dollars, or you can buy a Synology, and the licenses for the Synology are perpetual. So you buy them once and they're not that expensive. So if you need 4 cameras, and I think the licenses are in that, $60, $70 range, 4 times 60, or how many hours did you want to put into it? That's a math equation. I don't know the answer to it because I don't know what your time is worth. You want to hide services? Why not set up Tor? I don't have context for that. Maybe you're replying to someone else. Telnetting to core routers over the internet. I'm surprised and don't ever mess things up. They did. I'm positive. Not for you, at least. You got a new puppy. I like puppies. I learned so much playing your videos back to keep them calm. I call them puppies. That's a new one. We'll throw that in there. Amcrest are a security risk. Don't let them out to the internet. Seems like a mitigated risk at that point. So that's I have some Amcrest cameras. They don't go out to the internet. They're on a specific network that doesn't have internet access. So yeah, I'll agree. Do I trust them to have quality firmware? Of course not. I'm positive they have terrible firmware on them. They also have no access to the internet. So they're on a network where the only thing they talk to is the Synology. So that's how you lock these things down. I like to just wish you could use other storage targets. Yeah, the Ubiquiti security stuff is one of those, it just works, but also it just works. You can't really modify it much. It works the way they set it up, and that's where it stops. That's as far as you get with the way the Ubiquiti did it. I mean, it's not good. It's not bad stuff. We like the Ubiquiti security cameras, but it's also, they're limited. They do what they do, and I hope you don't want to do any more. Yes, you get 2 free licenses with Synology. Shut down PNP on the IP cameras if possible. Well, I mean, I'm using pfSense, so it's off by default. So that's how I solve that problem. Amcrest camera VLAN default deny. My Synology can make inbound connection to it. Yeah, it's not a hard configuration. It's always how we set. They just don't need internet access. So we don't give them internet access because why would they need it? What do they need to get out to the internet for? Nothing good. It's one of those things. Nothing good will come out of hooking those up. So let's see. What else is in my title? Oh, for those wondering, I put a link in there. Yes, I did launch the new business channel. Yes, it's linked. I think it's the top link in the description of this video. So for those of you who want business content, that's where that's going to go. For those of you who are happy that I'm not posting business content anymore, awesome. We'll just give a thumbs up to this video. I was losing subscribers every time I posted a business video, so I put it all on another channel. There's just not the Venn diagram I'm wrong about. The people who like my technical videos where I get deeply technical are not always the same people who like my business videos where I dive deep into business topics. Therefore, those go on a different channel. YouTube could solve problems like this for creators by offering subscriptions to playlists. That would actually be amazing. If you didn't subscribe to a channel, you subscribe to a playlist, because I have that problem with some creators. I only want to watch content on a topic they talk about, but not every topic. And I think everyone's like that. The option for a creator is create multiple channels and manage all the channels for each individual topic. Easier solution would be create a playlist and let people subscribe to that playlist and be notified when new videos for a playlist become available. That would be amazing. If anyone on YouTube's listening, I bet everyone likes that idea. But I'm sure they're just going to stop us from liking things because that's really what they took their time to come up with. On Untangled, should I use a block all firewall rule? I don't have context for that question. Block everything you don't like firewall rule? I don't know. Maybe. I don't. Always it needs context. Living out in the country, saw your cellular ISP solution with the unlimited AT&T SIM. Order one, David, and David's been great. In fact, watching it over that connection. Awesome. I don't think I did a cellular ISP solution video, though. I think you have me mixed up with someone else. But I'm happy you have a solution that works. Whoever helped you get that to the solution, but I don't recall doing an unlimited SIM solution, but I'm happy you have a solution. You can actually set up, if you didn't know, pfSense can act as an NTP server, and that's a solution for that. Then they can have NTP, but not leave the world. If YouTube is listening, fix comments spam. Yeah. When creators as big as MKBHD are talking about comment spam, gonna say, yeah, that's, I mean, your biggest creators on the platform are talking about it. Let's fix it. Oh, I meant using AT&T as my WIS and using a SIM from your site. I don't sell SIMs. So either way, I'm glad it's working. Nonetheless, I like when things work. How's that? Yes, there's only a single video on there, so we haven't had time to really put a whole video together yet other than one. It's for anyone that doesn't know, it takes a lot of time to create a lot of content, especially if you want the content to be not just the ramblings of a live stream where I just answer rapid fire questions. So it is going to take a little while before we fill that channel up with content. I've also been doing this channel for a lot of years. Oh, you know what? It was Chris over at Crosstalk. Awesome. Yes. And me and him are doing a live stream tomorrow. Have you deployed any AP outside of UniFi, Netgear? Not Netgear or Ingenious. I don't care for them at all. Matter of fact, Ingenious I don't like. We've had those be really problematic. We've taken out a couple Ingenious ones. We've worked on Aruba deployments. As someone brought up earlier, we've done some AeroHive deployments. I wasn't a big fan of the way the AeroHive software worked, but it worked. So there's that. We have a few clients with Meraki's. So we've worked with other platforms. Sometimes we're just the installer, and we do co-managed IT. That means there's already an internal IT department, and we are the external helpers coming in to help solve a problem. We don't always get to choose the hardware. Sometimes they do. So the deployments we've worked with are pretty diverse. And so we've helped out with a lot of different things. It's not, we're not an expert in every other software out there, but we've worked enough with them that we can usually figure out how to get them configured, how to get them set up. But so far, I mean, none of them have blown me away that, oh my gosh, this is so much better than the way everybody else does it. To me, everyone's kind of more the same. In UniFi, the outlier that is UniFi has a lot to do with the fact that they're not hitting you for licensing fees. When you look at, especially Meraki's really proud of what their parts cost and how much they charge to keep them turned on. Don't have a preferred cellular failover setup. I just loaded Proxmox. That's a great idea. Actually use machine clunky with VNC connection. Is there a way to virtualize and load the selected OS to operate as normal, not VNC? I don't use Proxmox, so I don't know. I usually SSH into my Linux servers and RDP into my Windows ones, if that helps. What about WireGuard and PFSense? It works great. I use it every day. I don't understand more of a question, but it works wonderfully. Oh yeah, yes. Mac Telecom Networks. And Genius is very bad. Yeah, I did not like them at all. Ever had to migrate a client to Samba AD in place of something official Microsoft? Is Samba AD relevant and updated? I don't know. We would probably end up just resetting up all the computers. We've rarely had to migrate anyone away from it. So few people are using Samba AD. So few that we've run into. I'm not saying they don't exist. I don't have a picture of the market, but we don't run into it very often. Not a super common setup from my perspective, but maybe I'm wrong and there's a bunch of them out there and they just don't call me. What's your issue with Netgear? I haven't really done much with the Netgear. They have some type of cloud thing they offer, but I've never been so impressed with their equipment. It never wowed me, so it's not really an issue with the Netgear. I looked at it. They bugged me to do. They wanted to sponsor me to do reviews, and I don't really do that. There wasn't anything exciting about Netgear, and I believe they have like a cloud lock-in product. I could be wrong, but I thought that's the way their product worked from when I read it. I'm like, The other thing I noticed that made me not like working with them at the time was there was a bunch of 404s trying to go through and read through product pages. I'm like, you're trying to get me to work with you on a product, but your product page 404s, like, I'm just going to pass on this for now until you guys fix your website, because Googling things about you is hard now because it lands on bad pages and I'm just trying to find information. I don't know about well-known. Willie Howe is really the only person I know that talks about him. So Willie seems to like him a lot. We don't see him in the wild very often at all. I'm not saying they don't exist in some huge pocket somewhere, but I don't see a lot of them. The most common ones we see Ruckus. We see Aerohive we've run into, especially because we have a client that likes them so much that we work with. Other IT company that contracts us to do things, they like Aerohive. Ruckus, Aerohive, and Meraki are your ones we see the most of. Cisco too, but not as much anymore. Most of those are always old when we see Cisco access points. I feel like that's always old ones we see. Meraki's the most common one we see outside of, we see a lot of Ubiquity, of course, but that's a bias we have because we talk about Ubiquity. People constantly are booking us to work on Ubiquity. Yes, if you're big enough, you can get into our co-managed IT. We do offer dashboard access. That's something. Actually, there's more coming right now. Ninja Dashboard is part of the offering. We're looking at expanding that, but short answer, yes. If you meet certain minimums, and I'm actually not the salesperson, so I'm a harder person to ask. But if you want to sign up for that information, you go out to our contact form and hire us and say you're interested in co-managed services. I think it's like a minimum of maybe 10. The sales guy knows because that's a decision I have now moved away from me. UniFi is non-existent support. How many AP solutions are not cloud-based? Sales seems like options are shrinking. Oh yeah, there's very few companies that don't have a cloud and a license fee attached to it. Arubas, that's the other one I forgot to mention. We have one of my friends has a big IT firm. They use a lot of Aruba. They're a lot bigger than me. They got about 20 staff, and they really like the Aruba line. What I meant was, there a hypervisor that lets you select OS you want on boot and then use it as normal? I don't understand the question still. Maybe that's a better forum question. That's why I have forums for the more in-depth, more technical questions. I am guessing that Tom might try loading the latest PSNs live on the SG-1000. No, I'm not going to do that. Plus, I'd have to set up the terminal ports on this. There we go. Come on, focus. That would be a little tricky. Plug it into the little console port, setting it up, loading it, getting an image for it. HP Aruba. Support's a bit like Compaq. Accounts for good suppliers, short VAR chain. Our suppliers, IBMers always have a different view. Yeah. Oh, should I do like a second live stream later in the day where I grab my Jack Daniels and do a live stream? I can do that. That would be fun. It's only 3:30 Eastern Standard Time right now, so there's plenty of day left. But if I started doing Jack Daniels at 3:30, I can guarantee productivity. That's not a productivity enhancer for me. Last employer MSP swore Meraki and laughed at Ubiquity when we suggested it. Yeah, happens. It is what it is. If people are happy, they'll keep doing things. I don't think Meraki is someone who is a problem, like other than the expense. I don't think it's worth what they're charging, but that's my opinion. People who are happy, they have a different opinion that it is worth what they're charging. So that's where the big differentiator comes in. If it's worth it to you, keep using it. If it makes you and your customers happy, keep using it. Who am I to say any different? Which LAN AP should I use for seamless roaming between floors, mobile laptops? Is 8.0 still a thing? Yeah. Use Ubiquity. Works great. Wander around, roam around from place to place, and have it seamlessly work. How satisfied are you? Oh, we doing a satisfaction survey now? How satisfied are you with Engine RMM? And what components do you use? All of them, including, I take that back. We're not using Ninja ticketing. So we use Ninja RMM. We use the Ninja backups, which I guess that's most everything. We just don't use their ticketing right now. I am satisfied. Yeah, thumbs up. I still like them. Ninja works great. I never hear anything about SonicWall to say. Oh, I hear all kinds of things about SonicWall. Mostly it's hate mail. Sean just had a great suggestion. First and goal. I like first and goal. All right. Sean is the person who I was doing the live stream with, or not live stream, video for Business Technicalities with, and he just messaged me. I think this is a funny answer. Our first video should be first and goal. And the reason he said that is because the Business Technicalities kind of has a theme of play off of sports themes, which I'm not a sports person, so it's really kind of weird, but it's going to be how we do the business channel, because I think there's a lot of things we can do on there. We're going to do like business timeouts and things like that. I know sports references. I just don't watch any sports. Roaming is a function of client device. At the AP side is important at proper tuning. It is a function of both. SonicWall only works with a license attached. I don't know where their licensing sits. It requires a license for some things. Does Ninja RMM have some add-on feature to let end users log into their machines and work? Yes. It can be configured that way for using Splash Top remote access. I think I mentioned that. I have a review of Ninja, and I believe I mentioned that in there. Meraki is best to buy at the end of the fiscal year, so everything's a massive markdown. We replaced 2 IT rooms, 2 buildings for $90,000. Was it SonicWall bought by? It was bought by Dell and sold off again. 3:30 daylight time. You should just say Eastern time and not mention standard. Oh, daylight. Yeah. Mostly hate mail. I'm sure you're talking about SonicWall. Would you install a non-Wi-Fi 6? Here's the problem. Availability of parts is so limited right now for getting some of the access points that sometimes the only option, if the customer wants it done at the scale they need, I need 100 of them. Great. There may not be 100 Wi-Fi 6 devices available. So it really comes down to, would we install it? Sure, because of lack of availability, not because I have a problem with Wi-Fi 6. I have a problem, as everyone does. Supply chain is a real problem right now. Should pfSense handle DHCP and DNS versus DHCP and DNS server small business environment? If you have a Windows server, pfSense should not be handling DHCP and DNS, the Windows server. If you're using Active Directory and a Windows domain, that's where the DHCP and DNS is best handled. How to get AT&T Fiber to work with UniFi Pro? I don't know. Thoughts on running Blue Iris and Real-Link cameras on the shiny Proxmox server? Wow. You're probably in for, I hope you have a really, really fast server. My last time I interacted with Blue Iris, and we've had a couple people have problems with it and contact us, it just seems like a resource hog, and it runs in Windows, which is definitely a resource hog. So you have a resource hog of Windows running a large resource-intensive NVR software. Now, granted, Blue Iris has all kinds of cool features. It's actually some really cool things I've seen people build automation around with a lot of extra plugins that aren't natively from Blue Iris, but add-ons for it. I've seen some really cool work done with it. Awesome. But it's resource intensive, and I don't know how well it would run virtualized. I just don't know. Because anytime we've had people want us to troubleshoot it, like they had really fast systems that were getting overloaded for all the extra things they were doing with it, and it wasn't virtualized. Now, there is a challenge you may have with clients having trouble connecting to stuff. Clients aren't always as Wi-Fi 6 ready as they thought they were. So, What makes Wi-Fi 6 better than Wi-Fi 5? More features. I'm not going to go into all the details. There's a million videos and a quick Google search explaining Wi-Fi 5 and 6. Do you see any changes in the supply chain shortage soon? No, not for a while. It's people don't realize how fragile some people now realize how fragile the supply chain is, but yes, the supply chain is very, very fragile. It's a delicate little flower that is wilted a little bit right now. It handles high density. It's faster and handles high density environments would be probably the two big reasons to go to Wi-Fi 6. When to order GPU FeeBase, notice the cell 30 minutes away, and I got the drive for it and have it today. Awesome. Does Knowledge Surveillance Station work with UniFi cameras? No. Well, there's hacky ways maybe you can make it work, but short answer, no, not really. Not really what it was designed to do. So not an impossible task, just not much of a task. Let's do this. I don't like turning back and forth, so we're going to shift the camera over. Let's see if I can make this work. Oh, perfect. I want to answer your questions. Now I got to figure out a way to make this easier. I think and we do this. There we go. Wait, this would actually be wrong. This is the right. This should be the right one here. So this, make sure is your audio. All right, cool. One more thing. All right. There we go. So I don't think I need that one. It's easier to answer your questions here, especially if I want to be able to pull them up and kind of keep my gaze. If not, I'll keep looking over and it feels weird. We had a lot of questions today. I like answering all of them. Yeah, pointing cameras at its own monitor. Yes, that's obviously a lot more fun. Audio sounds good. Looks good. All right, cool. So we are here now. Yes. Thank you for flying Vim. I probably shouldn't touch the mic. Someone with headphones is going, stop touching the mic. Let's see. Yeah, Junipers are pretty popular too. I see people talking about them. So the old Tom view. Sure, we'll go with that. Why not? Why not? This is easier if I have to do things like so what? Oh, LTT water bottle? No, it's not. I don't have any LTT stuff. I mean, I buy swag shirts. I like Windows shirts, but there's nothing about LTT that was particularly intriguing to me. So I've never bought any of their swag. I don't have anything against them, just if it didn't pique my interest. So what would be a good source to nerd out on TrueNAS for no geek? My videos. I is that I don't know what other what question would better answer that. We are working on some Lawrence coffee cups. Yes. Any such the most cost-effective way surveillance system necessary features person detection, recording, and good night performance. Pretty much Synology. I don't even have a suggestion beyond Synology for that. Yeah, beyond Synology, and I'm a big fan of the Synology surveillance station. Oh, nope, that was not what I wanted to log into. Let's see. So we can share a tab. Share screen, Chrome tab. Yeah, this is what it looks like for anyone wondering. Hey, look, it's my truck. And the night vision is really good. So I could probably pull up some recordings from night. There's my car. I guess my wife probably went out the door, or maybe that's when I came back in. Can watch the squirrels in my backyard. But the night vision is pretty good on this. So I mean, you can still see a lot of detail. And my house lights aren't on. This is just the ambient light from the camera itself. So let's see here. Install DSM 7.1. Let's see what I'd have to look what version I'm on. It's not 7.1 because that's still in beta. Or maybe this one is. I have I have a lot of Synologies for all the testing we do. So I'm looking up what version it's on right now. 7.01. So that's 7.01, but not 7.1. All right. Yes. Waiting for it go in production. Those are Amcrest. If you look at my channel, I have a video recently I did talking about the exact models, cameras, and how it's the advanced motion detection inside of Synology and how that works. Nice wash truck. Yeah, a little bit. It's actually leverages the cameras, and I have that. That's why I did that video. It doesn't do it the way people think it does. So I did a video explaining how that works. It's called like advanced people detection with Synology. It detects people and cars based on if the camera recognizes people and cars. It doesn't do animals though. How much power to run 12 4K cameras? They have a Synology that does the sizing for you. You tell them what you want, and they will. They have an MVR picker, so or you contract us to build it for you and pay us for consulting to set it all up. That's another option. Is there a way to cluster TrueNAS servers? Scale has this. Eventually, Scale will have this. It is not something available now. With supply chain issues, I purchased UniFi Flex Minis and use them as endpoint switches of my IoT VLAN. What ports do I need to open my cloud to manage them? Look up UniFi hosting the UniFi controller. I have a video I did a long time ago on it, but the ports haven't changed. It's also a write-up on the okay, 7.1 is officially released. But there's also a write-up on UniFi. If you search what ports to open for UniFi, they have a list. Yeah, it's not showing up as an option on mine, so they probably are rolling it out. Manually install Synology website. Cool. Does the only work on new? I'm not sure the question you're asking. Better than Reolink? Do you recommend Reolink setups or Amcrest's way to go? It depends on the cameras, and that's what it comes down to, because the cameras are doing the detection, not the Synology. Now, Synology does have special extra NVRs. They have certain models that do object detection. I don't know the pricing on those, and I haven't really tested them. They're more money. They do exist. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna turn this off. You know what I could do? I don't need the rest of my studio on. 1 second. Let me just go, and it'll get dark, and then the light comes back. There we go. It's actually easier for me to see when there's a little bit less light. This is when I'm facing just this way. So it is stage rollouts. Cool. Awesome. I don't really know what differs CrowdSec from like ban IP, except the bouncer part more dynamic. Well, it goes through and sees the attack, reads the logs, and it's getting their feeds. So it is collaborative, because it's not just your banned IP or fail to ban, it's everybody's fail to ban. So if someone attacks my server is running CrowdSec, and that attack gets registered, and they attack another server and it gets registered. Once they have enough data points, they go, that IP address is definitely bad. Send it out to all the other CrowdSec servers to let them know it's bad. According tag system, scale is more suited towards production than core, but I'm hesitant. I don't understand that, what you mean suited towards production, because scale is very new and core is very well established. I'm not going to say old. That wouldn't be the right way to describe it. Core is definitely faster than scale right now on the same hardware. All my testing has come to the same conclusion. So I'm sticking with core for things I need performance on. Scale has a roadmap for extra things, and is why they're going to keep building it, but it's not there yet. Many VMs in iSCSI. I have them listed in my build. If you look at my latest studio build video, I have them listed. I don't remember how much they cost, but I listed all the Amazon links where you can buy them. So I zoned out. We're in mood lighting now. Yeah. Does the newer camera detection mode only work on the new types of Synology or on the older types? I don't know. It should be any Synology that supports surveillance station. It should work, but it's not done at the Synology level. It's done at the camera level, talking to the Synology. So as long as Synology is in support and has the latest version of surveillance station, it should work. But I would buy a new one, because the used ones, by the time people throw out used ones, they're pretty old, and we're probably getting rid of them because they're out of support. So I haven't even tried ZoneMinder in a while. Last time I looked at ZoneMinder, it was so basic. It didn't do anything I wanted it to do. It was also challenging to get going and set up, so I kind of dropped it. How are you sourcing ubiquity hardware? Supply chain is so crazy right now. You guys still in a large scale? Oh, we snipe it whenever we can buy it. We check constantly, and the moment we see things on there, we're just buying all of them. There's no easy answer for it because the suppliers are all out, so we can't even get it through our suppliers. The suppliers aren't getting them because they go into the UniFi store and leave immediately. Would you do snapshots on a remote backup? Why wouldn't you do snapshots on a remote backup? Production is about stability, not features. So core for production, unless you need Gluster, then you are rolling your own since that's not even at scale yet. Yeah. I'm aware, but I think dual controllers, sadly, Ike system appliances offer this, but unobtainable in EU. Okay, yeah, I don't know what's attainable in the EU. I felt targeted. Sorry for saying I'm old. Any advice on getting self-hosted V5 on Ubuntu working behind it, HA proxy? I got it working, but I didn't document it. I built it to test it. It worked fine. There's not anything special I did. Getting things working with HA proxy is mostly just people not knowing how HA proxy works. I made the 3 videos on it, and every time someone has ever booked a consulting with me to solve their HA proxy problem, they always go, "Oh, I didn't see that checkbox. Oh, I didn't realize you typed that there." I'm like, it's in my video. I've had 0 people tell me it wasn't in my video. Every time someone needs help with it, I don't know any. It's a long, complicated video, I know, but I don't know how to make it any easier because it's a complicated topic of setting up reverse proxies. People get DNS wrong. That's why I made that 3rd video just about troubleshooting it, and that was based on all the times I've done consulting work where someone had the DNS set up wrong. So I made a video about how to set up the DNS. I don't know anything special though when it came to setting up Invoice Ninja V5 with HA proxy that I had to do. Most of the challenge I had, which I got to document better, and go. What I usually do when I document better is run through the whole setup more than once and make sure I have a series of notes on how to install it. But the notes I did to get it installed are their notes of building it. So. The only other appliance is ZFS dual controllers is a small QNAP lineup. They're in QNAP version of FreeBSD. I would stay away from the QNAP stuff. How does HA proxy, at least on the firewall, compare to a modest dedicated LB hardware like F5? I mean, if you're talking about a commercial F5 web application firewall, that's a completely different product that has way more features than just HA proxy. So it's kind of like, I don't know, do you like this Rolls Royce over here, or does that car do? They're not the same thing. They're not in really the same category, but HA proxy is pretty scalable and does a lot of things, but you're going to get a lot of different features if you get into something like an F5 load balancer. Also, pricing. Actually, let's look up what does a 5. Yeah, this is the kind of problem, and let's see. Hold on, let me find a good page for it. But to give you, like, you're asking, should HA proxy, the free open source, which is a good tool, by the way, or, building it a pfSense good, or would here we'll go with their, I think this is one of their cheaper models. So F5. Just got to find the right page, right? Besides the licensing fees, it's right in a $20,000 range. Let's try to find a good traffic manager. Where's a good place that sells these? It's harder to find some of the pricing on there. We'll just share this tab instead. There's your licensing for it. So when you're trying to compare any of these, this is a local traffic manager. Maybe they have the uh, other stuff. I see there's a couple prices that came up going through there. I, the difference in licensing price from doing something like HA proxy to F5 networks load balancers, it's a $20,000 was the price I seen for some of their models. But then you click the page and it's a sales page. That's why I didn't feel like showing somebody writing up these sales pages, but you get the idea. They're not in the same category. It's not like you're debating quoting. Do I put a PF Sense at this person's place or do I buy an F5 load balancer for $20,000? So oh no, 5K is just the license, not for the balancer. The balancers themselves were like 20,000 when I was Googling some of the stuff. So they're not in this. It's like we were talking about like Cisco Firepower. Someone says, well, how does Cisco Firepower, which I don't really know a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of the product from some of the people I've talked to that work with it in enterprise, don't care for it much, but they're not. When you look at how much some of these things cost, you're like, they're not even in the same ballpark. They're like, you wouldn't compare these two products. They're not on the same bid sheets. Yeah, that was just the licensing fees I was talking about, not the actual device. So, yeah, well, they don't just bleed you on the licenses. They also have a big upfront cost because Meraki is both expensive upfront for the device and then has recurring licensing fees. You can buy a handful of PF Sense devices for which you pay for one Meraki. So that's big price differences between them. What else were we going to talk about? Remember having the TrueNAS discussion in here. Maybe I'll make this as a separate video. About snapshots, because that's another thing to talk about. Can you increase the number of drives you put in Synology as you go? Yes. If you set up, it depends on how you set them up, but yeah, that it is something within the realm of possibility that can be done. Speaking of pizza, the pizza boy's here. He's asking me, keep schooling. I tell my son to keep doing school stuff. All right, there we go. TrueNAS snapshot videos. Yeah, that's one of those things. Like I make it bigger, right? So you can see easier. I have this LTS video production snapshot, and that's because I managed to somehow misplace files. I don't know how I did it. I just know that since I'm the only one working on here, I have to be the one who've done it. So I'll have to admit that I may have accidentally deleted something that was important, and I needed it back. But that's why we have all these snapshots. I'll just do a separate video for this because it's talking about ways you clone snapshots in order to get the data back you're looking for. So yeah, I accidentally deleted part of the recording I did for the CrowdSec video, and I'm like, where did that go? I can't find it. That's not good. And we went back over to the snapshots and we're able to find it. So if we go back over to snapshots, if we type in, you can see I have snapshots going all the time. And I kind of want to talk about some of the practical ways of restoring the snapshots. And, I just haven't done a video on this topic in a little while. And it's definitely an important one. And by the way, and this is something maybe not everybody understands, you can have multiple snapshots. So this is a snapshot and this is a snapshot. And this snapshot says keep it for 2 weeks. And this snapshot down here says only keep them for 24 hours. I have different tiered schedules, and you can do that with snapshots. That way you're not holding on to as much data, but it allows you to tier the hourly snapshots that you don't necessarily want to keep that many hourly snapshots for 2 weeks. You can if you want, but I only need daily snapshots for 2 weeks. But hourly snapshots are when you record something in the morning, you're editing in the afternoon, and then you accidentally delete something. And as I said, I know I must have been the one to do it because I'm the only one that has access to delete that thing, and it was gone. Ah, so yep. My son does online school. That is correct. $5.68 on the new channel. Yes. Volume shadow copy compatibility is really nice when using Windows for our previous versions. Wish there was a Linux equivalent. Yes, I agree with you, David. I do. I've never looked to see if there's any way to implement volume shadow copy in Linux. But yeah, they are very handy. Hey, maybe there's a way to do it. I'm just not aware. Can you manage multiple pfSense routers on one dashboard? No, you cannot. There is not any officially by Netgate supported ways to do it. There's third parties that have come up with ways to do it, but I don't use any of them. And having a third party have access to all my pfSenses sounds scary. Nope. Does it become slow without snapshots when made for one VM? No, it does not. There are limitations to snapshots, but speed stays pretty good. I mean, there is a point by which you will have problems when you have more, when you start running out of space on the drive, and because you've decided you want 1,000 snapshots. But ZFS handles snapshots really, really well. They're also handled very differently than the way they're handled inside of a virtual machine. So the VM snapshots for something like Zen Orchestra. So the way these snapshots are handled, if I do a new snapshot here, this has nothing to do with ZFS, but they are still called snapshots and they work in a similar way. But this is where doing a series of snapshots inside of here has a cost of keeping track of each one of these differential snapshots. So as I create these and there's differences between them, the system has to keep those differentials and figure them all out. So there is a speed cost that comes with it in the virtual machine world because of the way it talks to the drives. So the way it talks to this particular storage server. But snapshotting on the ZFS side is a very different process than the way it's done inside of a virtual machine. When is the stream ending? That's a good question. I'm thinking by 4:30, I'll end the stream. That's when I have gone long enough. If you're snapshotting block level, meaning you're only updating what was changed, why not snapshot every hour and just leave them? I don't understand the downside. There is a point where you have too many snapshots and there's just no value after 24 hours because after 24 hours, I have them. I have my daily snapshots that are going that allow me to keep 2 weeks of snapshots. I don't use Proxmox, so don't expect me to talk about snapshots and Proxmox. I have not used Bacula. Yeah, Proxmox does support it. It is a standard feature in most popular virtual machine systems. I mean, VMware, XCP-ng, Proxmox all have that. So definitely a common setup. But keeping all those snapshots, I mean, there's just a lot of them when you start going through here. You're like, go through to storage. It's just keeping no more than I need. That's all. And you can see the different changes on some of these. Video production. It's really not that much in this. This is my editing server, and I move everything over manually. I just hit the move and migrate it over to the long-term storage at the office, because my studio's in my basement. So I moved it there, and this server, it's all flash. So it's not as big as the other server. It's still got a decent size for an all flash server, but yeah, I just manually move things over there to where they need to be. And it has a few backups on here. And then I have them password protected, like Tom's computer backup. So that way, if someone to try to physically remove my FreeNAS, this locks on boot, and the data within it is encrypted. So it's double encrypted, because that's the best way to do it. Encrypt everything at rest. And make sure anything that you have set to boot needs a password to be able to boot and go there. What do you folks consume Windows backups to external USB? I don't know any. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not aware of any that we don't use any open source tools for Windows backup. ZF pointers cow, right? Yep. Curious how the VHD snapshots work. Similar. Never really thought about it. So I've done my video on ZFS as a cow, and copy on write with the way the pointers work is really, really clever, really tricky to engineer, and really well done inside of ZFS. All the right features. The way they're done in the VHD files, for example, in XCPNG, and others do this as well. They create separate VHD files and track the differences between them. They kind of like create forks of the files, and then they're differential. It's a lot trickier to manage. It would be cool, and I don't know. Someone told me, and I don't know if this is true at all, that Proxmox could do this, that they could base their snapshots on a ZFS file system. That would be cool. I don't know if that's true, but because the sources were YouTube comments, not anything I've read from their documentation, nor do I use Proxmox to really know. But that would be ideal if more virtual machines had file system level access. But that is interesting, but I don't know how likely it is, because the way that would have to work is either create a ZVol or a data set per VM, which, I mean, it's not that it can't be done, but it would take some integration level to do it. And then it would be an interesting integration, because Proxmox, while it does support ZFS, just like XCPNG, it supports others. The team at XCPNG doesn't do it because they would have to write a special ZFS module and then have two different snapshot modes: snapshot for everything, and then snapshot for everything that's not ZFS. So they don't choose, they're not going to write it, but it would be kind of neat for someone to write it. So I know Hyper-V has a different name for them, and I forgot what it is. I don't really ever use Hyper-V. Getting compromised, having snapshots, all the files were encrypted over time, so there's no clear point in time to restore. Hence the interest in snapshots canaries. At some point, I mean, hopefully you would notice if you kept 2 weeks, or we even keep 30 days of backups for most clients, if not more, depending on situations and compliance. But you would hopefully notice if everything's been encrypted for over 30 days. And canaries are no guarantee. You know what I mean? Like you have to have an agent. And for example, I mentioned Huntress. Huntress has an agent that actively monitors the canaries. So we know when someone encrypts something because it trips a canary. That's among the methodologies on there. As if all of our other tools wouldn't notice either. We have a Sentinel-1, for example. But if you have the Huntress canaries set up and the agent's monitoring those canaries, and something kicks off encryption, then it goes, hey, look, you tripped a canary. So putting a canary, so they don't encrypt slowly. I just haven't seen it. It's not much of, when they get into your backups, they don't always wait 30 days until they've stopped them. They usually try to turn off backups. So yeah. Yes, I really liked Wendell's recent video on that. That was really good on G-Raid, because yeah. G-Raid's not quite as good as they bragged. It's like, I don't get it. I didn't understand it when people had shared Linus's version of it with me. I didn't watch it. And then Wendell, I knew Wendell would be very concise and technical, so Wendell's video was the one I watched. Yeah, Hyper-V calls them checkpoints. Next backup, deletes backup. That makes sense. Corporate users, 120 users, 15-minute snapshots for 1 day, 1 hour snapshot for 2 weeks, daily snapshot for 2 months, weekly snapshots for 2 years. If you got the storage, awesome. What point do snapshots slow down ZFS? Yeah, at about 90%. It's actually a pretty high. It's different for ZVol and iSCSI. It's more like 60 or 70%. But for general file storage, it's closer to the 90 where you really have a problem. Bit off topic, just started PFSense, watched your videos and setting up. Is there anything that has changed since those vids that are you concerned about? No, my older videos, I mean, the default settings of PFSense are pretty secure. So unless you went and did something beyond and opened up other ports, then you're generally fine. Does using Parrot OS make me a hacker target? Where does all that self-hacking info go? Just it's in the operating system. So I don't think using Parrot OS would necessarily make you a target. I am running Blue Iris on an old laptop, Link cameras, as long as you use the Intel Inquick Resource Manager currently. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Watching your videos, interested in having a 1 or 2 hour consultation session for personal project. Kind of depends on what it is you want to talk about. It varies. A lot of times I quote people if they want to talk to me, $400 an hour. My general staff starts at 200 an hour, but it depends on the project. And we have that in our list that it's project dependent. That's a big part of depends what you want consulting with. Why would they find Parrot? What you're saying doesn't make a lot of sense. If someone who finds a system like Parrot, are they attracted to it? Like where are they finding it? Are you letting people on your network? So I don't understand that question. Do you ever take notes about the system monitoring tool? Check MK. Wendell video about recovering data bit by bit. DidSC is also interesting. He made a script to rebuild the entire inside the SSD. Yes. And then, yes, that was a really good video for sure. What I mean is there are attacks that modify files so you wouldn't notice and repeat the process over time. I show me that attack. I'm not exactly sure what you're, um, if someone's in your network, are they going to slowly move one file at a time to then hold you ransom, hoping you won't notice that they've slowly gone through and encrypted your old pictures and you never notice any file changes? Could it happen? Sure. It's a long game to play. If you spend time reading differ reports, as in incident reports and like the debriefs on them, that's not an attack I've seen. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying someone doesn't wander around the network. Just there's definitely people that are, I call them like the chaos monkeys, kids with too much time on their hands that just wander around wrecking things. So yeah, there's probably some kid that could go around doing that. The bigger thing is they're in your network. You don't know what they've done. Keep them out of your network. And that's the bigger thing to do. Do ISP providers care if you're using Kali? Generally, no, unless you're using it against them. Software RAID, is it good? They would always trust a hardware RAID from a controller for more. Yeah. What is a good vendor to buy virtual service from other than AWS and Azure? Linode. I have an offer code. The Home Lab Show. Use that offer code to sign up with Linode. Chaos. If they're encrypting files that are in use daily, it's not possible to take them offline. Yeah, it's just I mean, I'm not saying someone couldn't go, and this is actually where BitRot is more your enemy than anything else. That's where ZFS comes in handy. Is we've had people who had BitRot problems. They didn't realize because they didn't access a file until they needed it 2 years later that they couldn't. And this actually happened to a video production company, and this is what got them on TrueNAS. They were using another product that did not base itself on ZFS, but they paid a lot of money for it, and the BitRot got them. They needed a bunch of assets, and a lot of their assets, the old B-roll video they did for a commercial, they wanted to redo a commercial, but use a lot of the old footage. They couldn't because it was all corrupted. Lots of little bit corruption on there. Even running some of the recovery process, there was just pieces of the files missing, and broken JPEGs and things like that. You know, the type of images they use. Well, actually, they had raw, but still, same concept. Pixelated stuff missing, integrity checks failing on it. Linus talked about this too because he was running ZFS but with no scrubs. So there's BitRot is your own enemy there too. Keep the firewall on. Hackers out there don't really hunt each other out. I'll actually say there's a little bit of mystery. They're not until hackers are territorial. So I won't say hunt each other out is exactly right or wrong. I will say more so than you think. They definitely, it's kind of funny if some of the infighting between hacker groups usually ends up with them going after each other and doxing each other and things like that. So, but if you're not part of a hacker group, you're not likely to have, they always encourage more people to get in it. So do I look like I know what a JPEG is? Yes. That is hold on. These are great. For those of you that don't get the reference. There we go. There we make it zoomed in a little. 7 more minutes. I think I got to get my son. Hopefully he's doing schoolwork. Nextcloud is on VLAN 1 while all the IoT devices are on IoT VLAN. Someone pointed out that I am breaking all security rules by opening Nextcloud to the outside without devices, with other devices being on the same node. Is that true? I don't if you want an IoT, I mean, is IoT VLAN, Nextcloud is on VLAN 1, and all the other IoT devices are on IoT VLAN. Someone pointed out that I'm breaking all security rules by opening Nextcloud to the outside with other devices on the same subnet. I mean, it's not what you're doing is if someone hacks your Nextcloud, lateral movement. If someone were to be on the Nextcloud server, could they pivot to other things? That's where the question comes in. If they could pivot to other things from the Nextcloud server, that's the less secure methodology. That's all there is to it. Needs more JPEG. Hey, just got down with the business program. Welcome late to the party. Awesome. Great show. I recover VM image and via no backups on Proxmox. Really, really challengingly. IoT ran on VLAN 107. Our SonicWall standby cluster failed 4 times over the last 4 years. Different hardware currently. What's wrong with that stack? I don't know. I don't use SonicWall. Thank you very much for the donation. Much appreciated. Say your video ran for the VLAN1 and pfSense port, another VLAN through a second PSRM, but 4 lanes transferring files. Does the transfer go through the firewall? If they're on separate subnets and you have those subnets defined inside a pfSense with rules, yes, it goes through the pfSense. Even if they're on physically one wire, if pfSense is handling the rules there, then yes, it goes through it. Yeah. Did we talk about Wendell's NVMe partition recovery? Yes. That's how you recover it. So that's the Wendell's video on that topic is great. It is very, very technical and but also really good. Yes, put Parrot OS on VLAN 1337. Absolutely. That's the best VLAN. Right next to VLAN 69. There's got to be a 420 VLAN in there. We have to have all the internet funny numbers. Your wiki should be on VLAN 42. Yes. That's where all the answers are. All the answers will be on VLAN 42. Tries to always use prime for VLAN numbering. There you go. We just got to use all the different funny numbers. That's the internet needs more funny numbers, right? I love when someone said that. I seen that tweet. And I'm like, yes, the internet needs more funny numbers. Oh, my son's got the jokes here. VLAN 8008. Okay, I got it. I'll have to use that one now. He knows some internet funny numbers. I was using ESXS for a while, and I switched to Proxmox. Never looked back. Sorry, I'm actually tired today, I think. Actually, it's because I ate too much. I ate too much food for lunch. Is spring coming up? It is spring right now. It is mud season, to be specific. Ooh, Rule 34. We're not going there. Proxmox, Boris, Tom. Probably. I don't use it, so yes. Yes. Now, the problem with that VLAN, though, is VLANs only go up to 4096. So 4096. There are some maximums on the VLANs here. So you can still name it that. You just can't use those digits. So the funny numbers do have to stop at 4096. Oh, yeah, there we go. You get it. You just do 800 and you do a Q and Q and an 85. I got it. That works. See, there's a way. We're nerds. We can figure this out. We can go geeky. We're gonna go Q and Q. That's the way to do it. And now at least some group of people said, what's Q and Q? And we've inspired learning with these jokes. So now someone's going to go, wait, Q and Q, how does that work? How do we Q and Q VLANs? So, ooh, the 4077. I like that one. I'm old enough to know. So that means you're old. If you know what the 4077 is, you have some gray hair and maybe some back pain. Who can name the intro song for 4077? Who even knows what I'm talking about? I've lost all the young folks already. They're like, this guy's talking about some old stuff. This is diving back into the history. Yep. I'll assume you didn't Google it. Yeah. It's as soon every time I see it, the song plays in my head because I had a friend really, really determined to learn that one day when we were like, I don't know, 15 or 16. He'd play the intro whenever it came on. So he just keep playing it over and over in his guitar. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not even going to say it. I just realized you're right. Someone's going to see those Someone's going to see those comments and the YouTube algorithm is going to completely take it out of context. So we should probably stop saying that. We should completely not say the name of that song. This was a horrible choice by me right now. 404. Yep. I realized I should not say the title to the intro song to the 4077 because the YouTube algorithm will really hate that. Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. Radar was awesome. Yeah. They had a lot of great people in there. It was a good show. Up, down, down, left, right. Yeah, my son probably wants pizza now. Any final questions? This is the 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning. Final questions. Winding it down. I got to go pick up my son. He's watching anyways. I just got to go. Oh, Klinger. Yeah, Klinger was fun. Is the end of my live stream becoming MASH trivia? That's unexpected. I don't have any new hot sauce. I've not bought any new hot sauces in a while, so I don't have no opinions to offer on hot sauces. Shame on the algorithm. Yeah. Hey, this is my favorite one so far. So in these last 2 minutes, can we just smash the like button? How many likes do we have? Well, we got like 86. Click it. Click that like button. There we go. 89. It's getting up there. Zoomed in too far. 100 likes. There we go. Awesome. Did you watch the latest Star Trek Picard? What do you think about the Borg Queen? I think it's interesting. I didn't, was it the 5th episode? They really took a strange turn, and I think they went a little bit further off script. I don't know. It got a little outlandish, but it's Picard, and I'm going to keep watching it. So I may not like it, and I may shake my fist angrily at the script being a little bit too far fetched. Because I didn't understand. I won't spoil it, but it's like, why would you leave the ship when to build a fire in a falling apart chateau? I don't understand. I'll just say that. And like, what? And catch up. I'm not trying to spoil it for anyone, but there's just plot holes that some things get too obvious. And yes. Yeah, interesting story twist. Yeah. Used to be a super hot sauce fan. I still am. We are actually joking. We have so many. We have hundreds and hundreds of them. It got to the point where we got so many, we've been trying to go through them all. It's a challenge of just how many we have now that there becomes a point where you're like, how do I consume these? We had to get rid of some stuff that was older and expiring that we opened. We're like, we didn't care for this or didn't like this one, but it's gotten to the point where like just piles of it at my office, drawers and cabinets got filled. People started sending it to us, and I had to stop because I don't know what to do with it all. I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this. So we're still big hot sauce fans. We still use a lot of it. I just can't use it at the rate it was coming in. So it's been kind of a challenge to go through all the ones we have. And I mean, people sent me stuff from Australia, Europe. I got all kinds of cool things. I really enjoy them. It just becomes kind of this challenge of sorting it all out. Let's see. Bring me to the office. I'll eat it all. Yeah. Time to sell it. Yeah. Start your own tech hot ones with YouTubers. Yeah, there might be a copyright problem there. Make a giveaway series. Give away all the hot sauce that was given to us. We have too much. The problem is we open a lot of it and taste some of it, and we don't always like it. I don't want to give people open bottles of hot sauce. That seems weird and creepy. Oh, yeah, my son probably wants pizza. So we'll talk about pizza. Oh, yeah, CISA's been doing a lot of good checklists and ransomware checklists. So take the time to read some of what CISA's been putting out. They've gotten less just things are bad and doom and gloom, but some concise, actionable things, which I think is where they really need to be. So I'm hoping to see a lot more of that. My son can answer this right now. His answer is still going to be Buddy's Pizza. Has the best pizza, and he's not wrong. Buddy's is solid. So, all right, that's going to end it here. We talked about the best pizza here in Detroit. So if you're in Detroit, I do recommend Buddy's Pizza. It's not endorsed by or sponsored by Buddy's Pizza, but they do have a good pizza. For anyone wondering, if you spend any time reading about the best pizza in Michigan, Buddy's is always on that list. So, Linus, can I pay $9 for Peppermint EU? Linus dodging copyright teams with tech trivia from in the form of a question. Oh, yeah. Jack Daniels time later for sure. Yep. Aubrey's. Yeah. Aubrey's is I think I've had them before myself, but I'll take my son there. But that's enough for today. I need to go do other things now. Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you next time. Likes, comments, subscribe. Hit me up in the forums. It's a better place to have those more in-depth discussions on those more technical questions so I can dive deeper into the answer. And thank you.